An important step in every real estate transaction is title work. And joining us in studio today is Ron Ellison with American Title. Ron, you're quite the expert on title work. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I own American Title Company here in Jackson. I have been in the title insurance business for over 40 years. Born and raised in Napoleon. Spent a brief part of my life in Manchester where I have my farm, and now I'm back here again living in Jackson again. But you know, I love this town. I love downtown, and I love what I do for a living right now. So yeah.
Yeah, downtown's been lucky to have you here for a long time.
Thank you. I watched downtown kind of die, and I love watching it come back. So it's nice to be downtown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, every realtor I think in Jackson County knows you and certainly considers you an expert on title work.
Thank you.
But for any buyers or sellers that just don't really know what title work is, tell us a bit about it.
Well, you know, when you talk to a buyer and you talk about buying real estate, they think a title company is just somebody that does the closing for the bank or the credit union, you know, whoever. But if you go back 35, 40 years, as a title company, our job is to do the research, to tell the buyer who owns the property, do they have any liens against the property, you know, what is the status of the title, are the taxes paid? We actually will go to the city, we check water bills, again we check taxes. Sometimes we have to go to the courthouse, we have to read divorces, probates, things like that. So as a title company, we were the research people so that when you walked out of your closing, you knew that you owned the property free and clear, your lender had a valid lien on the property. So if I quizzed 10 buyers on what a title company does, 8 of them would get the answer wrong because they think all we do are real estate closings. But I think the research we do is the most important thing.
It really is. Yeah, you do a lot of research. Before we talked about, like, it's a very thorough background check on your property.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important piece. And because people don't know a lot about it, we were talking about how buyers don't really know what to look for. They have access to that title work before the closing.
Right.
But what should they look for when they're reading it?
Well, it depends on what the buyer wants to do. In other words, example, if you are going to buy a piece of vacant land and you're going to build on it, in the chain of title there could be building and use restrictions which dictate, you know, the size of your building. In some of the subdivisions you had to have an attached garage, your driveway had to be paved or concrete. So if you're going to build, you've got to know, are there any restrictions there? And the other thing is, the title work is not always the answer for everything, because sometimes a municipality, a township, or a city may have restrictions that you need to deal with, okay? So I think it's very, very important if you're buying vacant land, you need to check that out. If you're buying an existing house, and let's say that you want to build on sometime in the future, or you have plans of fencing your backyard or putting a pool in, the building and use restrictions in a development, again, tell you what you can and what you can't do. So I get frustrated when we do the title work up front, we send it to the lender or we send it to the real estate company, and nobody bothers going over that work with the buyer. So if you're a buyer out there, you should be very, very proactive and tell your agent what you want to do. It's not unusual that a buyer, if they're doing their due diligence, may want to see preliminary title work before they even make an offer on a property. That's not uncommon. The other thing is that that we run into, without a survey, we don't know where the property lines are. In other words, we search the legal description. So if a buyer is concerned about where the property lines are, where the driveway's at, things like that, again, they may have to have a discussion with their agent about actually getting a survey before they buy the property. So again, part of doing your due diligence up front is tell me what you're going to do with the property, tell me what your plans are, and look at what we do. And again, you may have to go to the city or the township to go a step further. One other thing we will do, let's drive around the city right now. A lot of streets have been repaved. The other thing we do is we check for special assessments. We check for delinquent water bills and things like that. So If you're buying a property, you want to know if there is a special assessment that on a monthly, not on a monthly basis, but on a yearly basis, you're going to make an installment to the city to pay for that street paving, unless you can convince the seller to pay it off for you.
Right.
So yeah, there's
and all information you'd want to know before you close.
Yes, you would. So yeah. Other things that we run into occasionally, if you're in the city, it's not uncommon to have a joint driveway with a neighbor. And sometimes you have a joint driveway, but there's never been a document recorded that spells out responsibilities and maintenance and things like that. That may be important to you as a buyer, but sometimes it's important to a lender, because a lender, depending on the program you choose, FHA, VA, whatever, they may want to see a recorded agreement between the two neighbors on who maintains it. You know, can you block the driveway? Can you park in it?
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. This is great information for our viewers. And of course, if anyone is buying or selling, they may run into you right there at American Title.
That's true, and I look forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Whether you're buying or selling your next home, you'll see Ron Ellison at American Title.